In 2001, Amazon nearly went bankrupt. The stock had fallen 90%. Analysts were calling it Amazon.bomb. The Wall Street Journal was writing its obituary. Investors were fleeing. Jeff Bezos was personally calling banks just to keep the lights on. And yet, 20 years later, Amazon is worth more than the entire GDP of most countries. That is not a rags to riches story. That is not a story about hustle or vision or disruption. That is a story about a very specific financial architecture that most people have never thought about. And once you understand it, you will never look at a shopping cart the same way again. Because Amazon is not a retailer. It never was. You just think it is because that is what they want you to think. Let's go back to the beginning. Here is why this is not just a story about one company. Amazon today touches nearly every part of the global economy. 1 in every $3 spent online in America goes through Amazon. Half of all product searches on the internet start on Amazon, not Google, not social media, Amazon. If you have ever ordered something online and it arrived the next day, there's a good chance Amazon built the infrastructure that made that possible. And yet Amazon, for most of its history, barely made a profit on any of it. That is not an accident. That is the strategy. And once you understand the strategy, you start to see it everywhere. In every tech giant, in every startup burning cash, in the logic of modern capitalism itself. This is where you explain the flywheel. Make it feel physical, not theoretical. Jeff Bezos had a napkin. On that napkin in 1995, before Amazon had a single warehouse, before it had a single delivery truck, he drew a loop, a circle, a cycle. Here's what it said. Lower prices attract more customers. More customers attract more third-party sellers who want access to those customers. More sellers mean more products, more selection. More selection means more customers. More customers means Amazon can afford to lower prices further. Round and round it goes. Bezos called this the flywheel. But here's the thing about a flywheel. It costs enormous energy to get spinning. You have to push it and push it and push it, losing money for years before it starts generating its own momentum. Most businesses cannot do that. Most businesses need to show a profit next quarter. Amazon chose not to. Every time Amazon made money, Bezos reinvested it into warehouses, into delivery systems, into technology, into new business lines, into anything that would make the flywheel spin faster. Wall Street hated it at first, but Amazon had something that protected it, something Wall Street eventually learned to love even though it fundamentally changed the rules of how a business is supposed to work. Amazon had a story. And not just any story, a story about the future. A story about a world where everything you could ever want would arrive at your door within 24 hours. Investors were not buying Amazon's profits. There were no profits. They were buying the promise of what Amazon could become. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in this story. Now, here's the part nobody talks about at dinner. For the first decade, Amazon was subsidizing its retail operation, the thing you actually use, with something completely invisible to most shoppers. In 2003, Amazon started renting out its own computing infrastructure to other businesses. They called it Amazon Web Services, AWS. You have probably never interacted with AWS directly, but you use it every day. Netflix runs on AWS, Airbnb runs on AWS. The CIA runs on AWS. A significant portion of the internet you use every single day is physically hosted on Amazon's servers. And unlike retail, which requires warehouses, drivers, packaging, returns, and 1,000 other expensive headaches, cloud computing has extraordinary profit margins. Here's what that means in numbers. In 2022, Amazon's retail business, the thing you order sneakers from, made no money. Its operating income was essentially zero, but AWS, which most customers don't even know exists, made $35 billion in operated profit that year. $35 billion. AWS is roughly 15% of Amazon's total revenue, but it generates the vast majority of Amazon's profit. So when you buy a book on Amazon and marvel at how cheap and fast it is, you are not experiencing a retail innovation. You are experiencing a cross-subsidy. AWS is paying for your free shipping. Amazon built one of the most sophisticated retail operations in human history and used it as a loss leader for a cloud computing business that most of its customers have never heard of. But the AWS story is only half of it. There's a second hidden mechanism inside Amazon's retail operation that is even less understood: Amazon Marketplace. Roughly 60% of all products sold on Amazon are not sold by Amazon. They're sold by independent third-party sellers, small businesses, manufacturers, importers, who pay Amazon to access its customer base. Those sellers pay Amazon a referral fee of roughly 15% on every sale. They pay for storage in Amazon's warehouses, what Amazon calls fulfillment by Amazon. They pay for advertising, because if you don't buy ads on Amazon, your product gets buried. And they pay for various other services: data tools, analytics, premium placement. The average third-party seller on Amazon gives back to Amazon somewhere between 30 and 50% of their revenue in fees. Amazon built a marketplace, then it became the landlord of that marketplace. Then it started charging the tenants for almost everything. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because Amazon also uses data from those third-party sellers, data about what products are selling, what prices work, what customers want, to develop its own competing products: Amazon Basics, Amazon Essentials, private label goods. A seller builds a market for a product. Amazon watches, Amazon clones it, Amazon undercuts the price, Amazon wins. Multiple investigations, including one by the US Congress, found evidence of exactly this. Amazon has denied it. The argument continues in court, but the pattern is documented enough that the question is no longer whether it happened, only how often. Now, to be fair, Amazon genuinely changed what consumers could expect. The operational miracle of next-day delivery across a country the size of the United States is not nothing. Amazon invested billions into logistics that no one else was willing to build. They lowered prices for millions of people. They made things convenient in ways that were genuinely new. And AWS democratized computing in a way that allowed millions of startups and small businesses to exist that could not have existed before, because they no longer needed to buy expensive servers before they could launch a product. That's real. That matters. But convenience is not the same thing as health. When one company controls the infrastructure that other companies depend on to reach their customers, something subtle happens. Competition doesn't disappear. It just becomes a competition for Amazon's favor. Small businesses no longer compete against each other. They compete for visibility inside Amazon's algorithm. Amazon sets the terms. Amazon takes the cut. Amazon decides who surfaces and who gets buried. That is not a free market. That is a toll booth. And the toll booth keeps getting more expensive. Advertising spend on Amazon has grown by double digits every year for the past decade because sellers have no choice. If they leave, they lose access to Amazon's 200 million Prime members. If they stay, they pay more and more for the same visibility they used to have for free. The flywheel, it turns out, was always spinning towards this. Here's the thing about Amazon that economics textbooks are still catching up to. Traditional capitalism assumes that if one company becomes too powerful, another company enters the market and competes it down. The profit motive attracts competition. Competition lowers prices. Everyone benefits. That theory assumes competition is always possible. What Amazon built is a system where competition becomes structurally harder over time, not because Amazon is making an illegal move, though some regulators believe they are, but because of what economics tell network effects and infrastructure lock-in. The more sellers on Amazon, the more selection. The more selection, the more customers. The more customers, more data. The more data, the better the algorithm. The better the algorithm, the more sales. The cheaper the sales, the cheaper Amazon can make its own logistics.
The cheaper the logistics, the harder it is for any competitor to match Amazon's delivery speed without spending billions they don't have. At some point, the flywheel doesn't just spin, it generates centrifugal force that throws competitors off. Amazon is not unique in this. Google did it with search, Meta did it with social graphs. The pattern is consistent enough that economists have a name for it now: platform monopoly, a new kind of market structure that existing antitrust laws were not designed to handle. The question that governments around the world are now trying to answer, in Brussels, in Washington, in Delhi, is whether a company can be too powerful without technically doing anything illegal. That question doesn't have a clean answer yet. Amazon started as a bookstore. It almost died in 2001. It survived by refusing to make money, by reinvesting everything, by building infrastructure its competitors couldn't afford to copy, and by subsidizing an entire retail
empire, with profits from a cloud computing business most people have never thought about. Along the way, it became the landlord of the very market it created. It collects rent from every seller on its platform, sells advertising to those same sellers, competes with those sellers using data those sellers provided, and delivers the result using logistics those sellers paid for. And hundreds of millions of people log on every day and find it incredibly convenient. So ask yourself a simple question. When something is free or cheap or fast, who is actually paying for it? And what are they getting in return? Because in economics, there is no such thing as a free delivery. There is always a flywheel. You just have to figure out who is spinning it.